within the app, within the watch, you can do richer things. So you can find notes. You can say, speak the text, and it'll find notes related to that. You can check off your checkboxes. And this is surprisingly something people really seem to enjoy on the Pebble, Galaxy Gear, and on Android Wear. If you're at the supermarket, you've got the kid in one hand, you've got your trolley in the other hand, what are you going to do with your phone? Having it available, your shopping list available on your watch is actually something people seem to really enjoy. And then you have things like nearby notes. So I'm about to walk into a meeting at Facebook. I can look and see what notes did I create there 2 years ago when I was at a meeting, and remind yourself of the previous meetings and the notes you've looked at recently. So Evernote for Android Wear for me has been about taking it further than just taking advantage of the basic functionality of the watch. It's been about starting to take advantage of what we talked about in the keynote, of context. I showed you the very simple scenario of looking at a note on your phone, switching off your phone, and it goes onto your watch. But we go further than that. If there's a meeting about to come up, and there's an alarm for that meeting on your phone, we'll look at that meeting, we'll look and see, well, who's at that meeting? Do we have any business card notes about that person? We'll show the photo so you can say, hey, whatever your name is, and you actually act as though you remember the name of the person. You can also see what notes you took last time you were in that meeting. So if it's a recurring meeting, you look and see, well, what notes happened last time you were at that meeting? What notes did you take? And show those up. So we're starting to look at context, surfacing information from your account based on your context. So in terms of the future of Evernote, well, before I go into the future of wearables, before I go into the future, let's just take a step back and think about why wearables, why Evernote and wearables. I've talked about context already. There's also the idea of communication, and with our business chat capabilities that are coming out, there are very obvious scenarios there in terms of replying to chats. You're not going to write a long chat, but if it's just, okay, I agree with that, it kind of makes sense. Control, so I talked about using Evernote, or using the podcast control functionality. You can also imagine it being used for presentation mode, to be able to control your presentation. Consumption of information, so this is obviously looking at notes and so on. This is where, for me, it starts to get a little bit iffy. I kind of agree with my thinking has evolved. I don't want to go digging through menus on my watch. I just wanted to surface information. So consumption of simple information kind of makes sense. And then finally, sensors. And this, I struggle to think in terms of where Evernote fits in with sensors. It's kind of maybe security. If you're still alive, it gives you access to your account. But for me, the key one was the top one, context. Somebody from Quartz magazine recently said, context is the new search. And this is true. And it's especially true with Evernote. I have so much information stored in Evernote, so much of my life's work stored in Evernote. I've been using it for a long time. Half the stuff I don't remember. Being able to surface information from my account on my wearable device without even realizing I even needed it is magic. I kind of dream of the person at the airport who just, is running, she's running, she's put her phone away, what gate number was it? And it's just there for them automatically. So context for me is really key. And it's not just, where are you, it's also who you're with. What have you done? What do you do typically this time of the day? Every single weekday, I'm pulling out my kids' agenda for school to try and understand, do they need a gym bag, what do they need to take with you? Every single day at the same time. So why not surface that information automatically to me? And it's not just obviously wearables, it's also about phones and just general accounts. And that's where having the power of our augmented intelligence team backing us up and creating these kind of algorithms and design is really key. I'm gonna head off a couple of questions. So I've not held it. I've just watched the keynote, or they talked about where they talked about it. I've paused it pretty much every single frame to try and understand what's happening. There are definitely, for me, some interesting things with the Apple Watch. We don't announce products in advance, so this is not me saying what we're going to do. These are just Damien's thoughts having watched it. So Apple talked about 3 different kinds of ways in which apps can surface information on the Apple Watch. They talked about actionable notifications, so this would be a voice chat perhaps coming, or a business chat coming in and being able to reply to it. They talked about glances, so you can swipe up from the bottom of the screen and see little pieces of information per application. And this is where I could imagine showing things like the note you looked at most recently on your phone, surfacing it on the watch. And then they talked about full apps, and that's the kind of richer experience that we did on Android Wear. I can imagine those kind of things happening. But it's not just about watches. So I imagined the product about, I don't know, 6 months ago, and I called it Murmur. Not the best of names, but I imagined this product like a little headpiece that just murmured information to you throughout your day based on what was happening. Damien, you need to go to a meeting now, or this person you're about to meet with, you met 6 months ago, or whatever it is. And this kind of little Bluetooth headset. And this is kind of what Motorola have done with what they're calling the Motorola Hit, which is a little Bluetooth headpiece, pretty much invisible, that lets you kind of issue commands to it, and also tells you stuff. So it's kind of interesting for me because the whole action of looking at your watch sends the wrong signal, at least for now it does. It sends a signal that I'm bored and I don't want to have this conversation with you. So I think that having something like an earpiece that feeds information to you, that lets you sub-vocalize commands, is an interesting kind of experience. Now, I started off with this question of, Evernote and wearables, a perfect match. For me, it really is a perfect match because I've stored my life's work in there. I've stored all that information. Having it accessible to me based on my context, based on what's happening, makes all the sense in the world to me. I sometimes get asked about, what's the future? What about wearables in the future? And I kind of force people to cringe sometimes because I can imagine in 5 years' time, we won't be talking about wearables so much as embeddables. So something that's completely hidden from view. Maybe a Bluetooth headpiece that that's totally invisible. When I was taking photos of my nice Swiss watch for this presentation, my wife saw me and said, "Well, Damien, what are you doing?" And my wife's American, I'm English. There's sometimes a culture clash, and most often that happens around sense of humor. So she asked me what I was doing with my nice Rolex watch that we got when we got married, and I said, I don't worry very much anymore. I was thinking about selling it on eBay. And the response was, I just looked at her face and she did not understand my sense of humor. The truth is, though, that I miss that watch. I miss the physicality of that watch. I miss the association of memories and the feelings I have associated with it. Although I'm wearing 2 watches right now, I can imagine within the next couple of years I'm going to go back to that watch because it's more than just a piece of technology. It's about personal kind of associations. I'll probably wear 2 watches. I'll wear one on here and one on here. And ideally, eventually, as I said, the wearables will disappear and just become part of our everyday life. So that's all I have. If anybody has any questions, don't hesitate. Okay.